What's up everyone, this is Mike from Pastime, and I decided it would be a good time to answer some frequent questions and respond to viewer feedback, especially since we've seen a crazy influx of new subscribers and views since our GTA 4 and Alien Isolation reviews. First of all, we'd like to welcome and thank all the new subscribers. We appreciate the support. Gaming Pastime is now a team of 3, Jeremy, Matt, and myself. Matt has recently rejoined the group. We started as a Let's Play channel and went nowhere before dabbling in reviews, which have proven successful. So that is what we do now. We are primarily a single-player focused channel. We enjoy covering mods for PC games, and we try not to limit ourselves to any specific platform or genre. We're clearly fans of shooters and action games, that's obvious, but we'll give anything a shot as long as we have the means to do so. Now there's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. First, I want to explain how our reviews are structured, which will possibly address some criticism, both positive and negative, regarding the length and style of our reviews. Those of you that have been with us for a while now have probably heard this before. Our reviews start with an introduction, then we talk about the story, gameplay makes up most of the review, then comes the segment on tech, which includes visuals, audio, and performance. After that, we go over the game's fun factor, and then we end each review with a conclusion, or in other words, if we would recommend the game or not. The introduction usually includes information about our experience or history with the game, or any media related to it, anything like that. I could just delve right into the game's information, starting with developed and published by, but starting a review so abruptly like that just doesn't sound natural to me. It's just a preference, I suppose. The story segment comes next, so we can talk about the plot and characters. Also, I may reference characters or plot elements in relation to the gameplay throughout a review, so covering the story stuff first can provide context for anything talked about later on. Gameplay is the biggest focus of our reviews because we feel it's the most important part of any game, more so than anything else. Yes, we'd like to cover most, if not all, basic mechanics in the game. It may not be necessary, but it does provide context for any praise or complaints we may have. I think the tech segment is obvious, and Fun Factor was added into our structure after we teamed up with GameCast. Their reviews include a Fun Factor segment, and before we started working with them, a lot of what was considered Fun Factor was merged with the conclusion. This is where we basically go over if the game was an overall fun experience. Our conclusion is where we would recommend the game or not. As you know, we don't score games, it's either we recommend it or we don't. Every single review we do is subjective, every single one. It would be very, very stupid for us to do it any other way. We all have different experiences, likes and dislikes, and coming at games subjectively is just an honest way to do it. We will not change that approach. Now, when we cover mods, we usually fuse information about the mods into the reviews, which you all seem to enjoy, so that won't stop. Depending on several factors, we will cover some mods in separate videos. Reviews are always released on Fridays, and sometimes we will release another during the week, but that's never a guarantee. I want to mention that every Friday review is completed and uploaded months in advance. For example, when our review of the first Halo was made public, we already had the reviews of the rest of the series completed and uploaded. This is so we have something to release every week should something come up like hardware issues or life stuff we have to deal with. We don't want to rush through a game just to get a review up. Now I'll address the big elephant in the room, and that is that I talk too fast. And here I was thinking I should speed it up. I'm just kidding. I am working on it. However, it is just the way I talk in everyday life. I've been told I talk too fast many times, so this really isn't news to me. I'm not rushing through the reviews or trying to get through them as fast as I can. It's just the way I talk. I have been making an effort to slow down and will continue to do so, but you have to bear with me a little bit because you're asking me to undo 20-something years of speaking a certain way. Like right now, I'm making a conscious effort to slow down. I'm aware of it, and it's a work in progress. I'm going to now address our lack of multiplayer coverage. We will cover cooperative modes, but competitive multiplayer is not really our thing. We are primarily a single-player focused channel. When I was in high school, I was big into Counter-Strike, and then I moved on, and I've just grown to prefer single-player. I personally enjoy getting immersed into worlds and stories, and to be honest, I don't really give a shit if I'm better or worse than anybody else. I play games for fun, and our idea of fun is not competition. Ultimately, I do not like relying on other people for my enjoyment. Now, I'm not saying we'll never cover multiplayer ever. Look at our Battlefront 2015 review. It just depends on the game and how we feel. If we can play solo or together in local co-op, we would rather do that. Now, if the game has single-player content, it will be covered, even if it's a non-multiplayer-focused title like the first 3 Unreal Tournament games, which we did review. If it can be played solo, it gets covered. Battlefront 2015 is a good example. Sure, single-player isn't the focus, but the developers went out of their way to include single-player content, so therefore it gets covered in the review. I even covered the multiplayer in that review, and I still say that game sucks. And I've played fun multiplayer games before. Battlefront 2015 is not one of them. Many of you have pointed out our reviews contain a lot of spoilers. I apologize for that. With our early reviews, we didn't really think about it, so if you're just joining us, I warn you, our early reviews contain many spoilers. We always figured we wouldn't spoil anything for newer games, or at least put up a message beforehand, like in our Breath of the Wild review. But it's not often we review the latest games at the time of their release. We have started to tone down showing spoilers in more recent reviews. But here's the thinking. The older the game is, the less sensitive we are to it. If we're talking about the original Doom games, for example, we won't hold back. If it's a story-heavy game like, say, The Last of Us, we'll be aware and avoid it. However, you should always be aware of spoilers because what you consider a spoiler may not be a spoiler for someone else. Some things like plot elements are obvious, but if you're sensitive to just gameplay stuff, then beware because gameplay is our primary focus. We like to cover all major gameplay mechanics, and there may be exceptions to the no spoilers rule if the story affects major elements of the gameplay. For example, our Quake 4 review, which will be coming soon. At a certain point in the story, something happens that affects the gameplay. I'm telling you now, I outright spoil it because of that. Ultimately, we will be mindful of spoilers going forward. I think I should take the time to address some of my criticisms of some games. Not that I really need to, but I'll elaborate on my view since I'm seeing many similar comments. Before I begin, please keep in mind all of this is just my opinion. I'll start with Halo. If you've seen our reviews, you should know I'm a big fan of this series, but I do not like the Flood. Many viewers have felt the need to explain to me how the Flood works. I know exactly how they work. I've been playing these games for years. I understand their role in the story. I understand they're supposed to rush you. I understand the game is forcing you to change your tactics. I understand all of that. I'm saying it all sucks, and removing the Flood would make the games so much better. The Covenant AI is fantastic, and no battle against them plays out the same. Then you get to the Flood, and the strategy is to now avoid getting overwhelmed by space zombies. That strategy gets old, it never really changes, and I don't find it enjoyable, not in Halo. All of the battles against them feel the same. If I wanted to shoot mindless zombies or enemies with lackluster AI, I could play almost any zombie game or a lot of other shooters. I think one of the highlights of Halo, especially in the early games, is the Covenant AI, and I feel they should have been the only enemy force. Or instead of adding the Flood, maybe Bungie could have added other enemies that show off the AI. All I'm saying is the Flood suck. They are designed to have piss-poor AI for obvious reasons, and I don't think it's a good thing. It just highlights how enjoyable the Covenant are to fight. Yes, removing the Flood would have changed the story and lore significantly, and I would have been fine with that. Now I'll talk about the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. To be clear, I like the game. I think it's great. If you've seen our review, you should know I do not like the addition of heroes. I see no gameplay reason for their inclusion. None at all. I think the first game was perfectly fine without them as playable characters. I liked the first game because you're essentially taking on the role of a basic grunt in large-scale battles. I thought the original Battlefront not focusing on special characters was interesting, and the gameplay was fine. I see absolutely no reason for playable heroes to be in Battlefront 2 other than for fan service. And I don't like how they're implemented. Yes, they're overpowered for obvious reasons, but they also feel floaty. I think the story in certain game modes impose a time limit when playing as them, which is obviously a forced gameplay mechanic for balancing, and they just seem so unnecessary. However, I would say the meat of the game is the multiplayer or instant action of playing solo, and they can be turned off, so it's really a non-issue. But they were included in the game, so I covered them. The space battles were another point of criticism. It's a great idea and they play out fine, but I found them to drag on a bit too long, at least in the story. And all the ship interiors seem to look the same. It gets old. However, this is yet another element of the game you're not forced to do, so this too is kind of a non-issue. But they're in the game, so I talked about them. I still think Battlefront 2 is a great game. I want to address some criticism aimed at our coverage of the unpredictable alien mod in our Alien Isolation review. The complaint seems to be that the coverage of the mod was minimal. The mod is very simple, it just extends the alien's leash as the mod description puts it. That's all it does as far as I know. Even though it's a small change, it makes the gameplay a lot more immersive in my opinion. And in a game like Alien Isolation, changes to immersion make a big difference. The fact remains it's a simple mod, and there's not much more I could have said about it. There seems to be some confusion regarding our Left 4 Dead review. It appears some people think I didn't beat the game. I thought I made it clear I did beat the game, but if that wasn't clear, I apologize. I beat the game. Before playing it for the review, I had never beaten it, but I did beat it for the review, so that answers that. Okay, now I have feedback for some of you. For those of you that have expressed your love for our content, we love you all and appreciate all the support, and we thank you for everything. Seriously, it's been great. We love interacting with our audience. My feedback is aimed at those that like to hurl insults, although I doubt many of these people will be watching this, but I'll say it anyway. First of all, we appreciate and encourage both positive and negative criticism, but let me explain something to you. There's positive criticism, there's negative criticism, and then there's being an asshole, being a troll, whatever you want to call it. Saying I agree or disagree with this and that is perfectly fine. We love discussing fiction, even if we disagree. Elaborating on your arguments is always good because it gets a conversation going. We respect and can understand different viewpoints. However, just hurling insults at me over an opinion is not positive or negative. I just assume you're an asshole. And let me give you a friendly piece of advice. If you're going to start calling me names over my opinion on a work of fiction, which by the way is moronic in the first place, at least know what you're talking about. But we do want to thank you all because the numerous name-calling comments only draw more attention to the videos, and for that we are grateful, so we thank you. Okay, now this is going to be fun. There seemed to be a bit of an uproar due to my comment about Alien 3 in our Alien Isolation review, so I'll say it again, I think Alien 3 is a piece of shit. That's how I choose to express not liking this particular work of fiction. I will not apologize, that would be ridiculous. It's not like I insulted a person or a group of people, it's just a movie, get a grip. I didn't care for the story or setting, and that movie absolutely is a slap in the face to fans of Aliens. If you're not a fan of Aliens, then it probably doesn't bother you, and that's fine. I only made my comment about Alien 3 in the review because the game is part of the Alien franchise, and I figured I'd share my views on the films, which fits our style of introduction that I talked about earlier. I personally feel the series goes downhill after Aliens, and to be clear, I said I prefer Alien Resurrection over 3, but not because it's a good movie, it's because I went into Alien 3 with high expectations and left very disappointed. I went into Alien Resurrection with low expectations. Yes, Resurrection is an awful film, it should have never been made. I still say all the arguing is due to genre preference. Aliens is an action movie, Alien and Alien 3 are horror movies. I've made it clear I prefer the action genre, and so what? That doesn't mean anything, despite comments to the contrary. I love the first film, so what's the issue? There are several horror movies I do enjoy, believe it or not. And I never said I didn't like Alien 3 because it was a horror movie. Never said that. Even though I don't like it, I do accept it as canon. I do not think it comes anywhere close to the first film in terms of horror, thrills, or excitement. I've tried to make my arguments and discuss the franchise in a civil manner, but some people resort to name-calling because they think that gives them some kind of an advantage, I guess. They don't even make counter-arguments. In response to my views, I've been told I'm too dumb to understand and that I'm a child, all because I enjoy Aliens. There are even some comments from viewers that proclaim themselves to be true Alien fans, whatever the hell that means. From what I gather, I assume it means you can only enjoy Alien and Alien 3. Yeah, ridiculous. If you enjoy it, watch it. Just because the hive mind says something doesn't mean we all have to agree. If we all thought the same thing, the world would be a very boring place. I know there was a couple of comments indicating that I should, quote, remove the nostalgia goggles, unquote. Okay, here's the thing. I don't own nostalgia goggles, and I'm not wearing nostalgia goggles. I wasn't even alive in 1986, which is when Aliens came out. I was born in '89, if you must know, so don't just pull information out of your ass. I was not around for the film's marketing, I was not around for the trailers, and I didn't see any of the films in full for the first time until the Alien Blu-ray anthology came out, I think in 2010. After I got it, I watched them in order, and yes, I watched the beloved Alien 3 Assembly Cut, and I'm just not a fan of that film. And when I call something a piece of shit, that means I don't like it. The same way many of you express your dislike for various fictional works and refer to it as, and I quote, hot garbage. Whether I say it's a piece of shit, it blows, it sucks, it all means the same thing. There is no difference because I'm saying there's no difference, and I know what my opinions are. People like certain things, and other people don't. My opinion is not fact, I am not an authority of any kind, Alien 3 is just a movie, it's all fiction, so relax. I'll end this video with one more thing. Yes, we do accept requests. We just don't have a formal process yet. We had a process in the works, but it was scrapped and we're redoing it. We'll let everyone know the formal request process when it's ready. For now, you can just reach out to us in the comments, via email or on social media if you have any requests. Just be aware that we do have to own the game and have a means to play it. Thank you for watching, everyone. Here's some shit coming soon.
Thanks for coming to visit, but here, every day is Christmas. So when I say howdy ho, you gotta say, howdy ho, Mr. Hanky. Give it a try. Howdy ho.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest of our channel, follow us at the links below, and you can also support us on Patreon.
If you're interested in more gaming content, check out our friends over at GameCast.